Okay, so one other thing that is on your test that I just wanted to remind you about is we're using vertical angle pairs and linear pairs. Remember that if two lines cross, doesn't matter how they cross, if they cross, period, if they intersect, then we only have two different angle measures there, really, at most. Theoretically, they could cross so that they'd be perpendicular and then all the angles would be the same. But if they're not right angles, then there's only two measures. All I have to know is one of them, and I know all of them. Let's say I know that this is 20 degrees. Okay, well, then the 20-degree angle has a vertical angle pair with this one right here. So this is also 20 degrees. And then any two angles next to each other form a linear pair. So like for instance, because we have a straight line and then a ray here between them, these two are a linear pair. Or these two are a linear pair. A linear pair is always supplementary, meaning they always add to 180. So 180 minus 20 gives me 160. And this is 160 also. So let's say that you have a picture like this, and you have a bunch of algebraic expressions. Like maybe you have, and I don't know how these are going to come out because I'm just making them up on the spot. They may be kind of ugly. Let's say we've got this, and we've got this, and we've got this, and we have this. Okay? The first thing you have to do is identify which ones of them have the same variable. Because the only way to write an equation is to describe a relationship between two of these angles. Remember, anytime you're asked to solve, and that's what you'd be asked to do here, you'd be asked to solve for x and y and z. Okay? Anytime you're asked to solve, that means you have to have an equation. You can't solve without an equation. To write an equation, you have to have a relationship between two things. So I have to be able to compare two of these angles and make an equation out of that comparison. The only way it would help me is if they have the same variable. Like for instance, if I wanted to, I could say that this angle, the 5x minus 7, and this angle, the 3z plus 16, those are congruent because they're vertical angles. So if I want to, I could say they're the same. The problem is, does that help me? It doesn't help me at all. I have an equation that has two different variables in it. I can't solve one equation that has two different variables. So that doesn't help me. So you want to identify which ones have the same variable and figure out what their relationship is. Here we've got two angles here that both have x's, and they form a linear pair. Remember, they make a straight line on one side, so they add up to 180. So a linear pair always adds up to 180, so I'm going to write that. I'm going to write one of them plus the other one equals 180. And these parentheses are just for the purpose of grouping, just for the purpose of setting apart one angle from the other. I'm not doing any multiplying. There's not a number in front of the parentheses. There's not a minus in front of the parentheses. There's something between them. I'm not multiplying here. Okay? So really, it's exactly the same as this. All right, so let's combine my like terms. And this is what I get. And what do you know? This is going to come out pretty well. 8x is 160. Since 8 goes into 16 twice, it goes into 160 20 times. So there's x is 20. Now, remember what I said about every time you solve for a variable. In other words, I get x is 20, or y is 2, or a is 6, or anything like that where I have letter equals number. You want to go back in the problem and look again and see, was I supposed to find x? Does that mean I'm done? Or am I supposed to go back and use this information somehow? And in this case, we're going to have to use it. We have to use it to find out how many degrees are over here and how many degrees are over here. Because once I know 20, I can plug that in. 3 times 20 is 60. 60 plus 27 is 87 degrees. Or I could plug it in right here. 5 times 20 is 100. 100 minus 7 is 93 degrees. Just one more time to check myself here. I can check myself. Now, by the fact that 87 and 93 do add up to 180, so that's good. I did it right, in other words. Always nice to know. But remember what we said up here about you're only going to have two different angle measures. So everything on this picture is either 87 or 93. These two across from each other are the same measure, so this has to equal 93. These two across from each other are the same measure. Remember, these are vertical angles, so this one has to equal 87. And now I can use those equations to solve. 3z plus 16 equals 93. That means that 3z is equal to, let's see, subtract 16, and I get 77, I believe. And that's going to give me 25 2/3, 25 2/3 for z. And here I can add 18 to both sides. 5y equals 97. 105. This one at least will come out a whole number. We really should go ahead and plug that back in and see if we get the right thing. And I think we will in both cases. And that's it.